And we're here to talk about the incident yesterday that happened on Grinnell Road. We are still in the investigative stages, so there's still a lot of stuff that we can't release. But we are releasing the names of the two people that are deceased. The female that was that died at the scene was Cheryl Sanders. She's a white female, 59 years old. And the second deceased was her husband, Robert R. Sanders, and he's a white male, 56. And at this time I'll turn it over to the Greene County Coroner, Dr. Kevin Sherritt.
So as the sheriff said, there were two deceased that were removed to the Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab. We performed autopsies this morning on both of the deceased, and both of the deceased did die from multiple gunshot wounds that were sustained there at the scene yesterday. The gunshot wounds were consistent with the investigation there at the scene, and further investigation is ongoing with toxicology and the other forensic procedures that we are doing. We should have final reports back within the next 6 weeks, and certainly we'll be working with the Sheriff's Department and BCI and all the other agencies that are involved in the investigation. Does anybody have any questions that I could answer at this time?
Were you as coroner or your department able to determine who was shot with what gun? Or
they're working all that out. They have recovered shells, casings, as well as slugs from the deceased, and that will be determined. But yes, we will be able to determine which weapons that the rounds came from.
Does this clearly look like an act of self-defense to you guys, or are you still looking at it?
I'll leave that to the sheriff to say. You know, I can tell you that there were multiple wounds, and that we were able to recover the slugs for the ballistics, so that we will be able to answer those questions.
Are you able to tell us where they were shot at?
I'm sorry?
Are you able to tell us where they were shot?
At this point, we're still looking through that, and we're still determining each one of those wounds. And so, you know, I can tell you at this point that there were multiple gunshot wounds that are yet to be determined.
Do you have a number?
We're still working that out. We do have a number, but we're not going to release that at this moment.
Are you able to tell if the deceased ever fired their guns?
That's what we're talking about, is identifying the ballistics from those weapons, and that'll be done over the days ahead.
Any history between these that we know so far as to what
We'll get into that. I also have with me Suzanne Schmidt from the Greene County Prosecutor's Office that could answer some legal questions as we go forward. But we're still leaning from last night's talking to you guys about this being an ambush, a setup. We still are looking at that. I want to also let you know that at the scene that we found yesterday a surveillance camera system, which was set up on a stump across the street from the house. And this surveillance system was broadcasting over the air where somebody on a cell phone and a cell phone in the deceased vehicle was actually on, and we could see. Well, we first noticed it. We were walking by the car, saw that the phone was on, and we could see deputies walking around, so we knew something was broadcasting live. So we were able to find the cameras, and then we've, with the search warrant, taken that phone and seeing what we can get from there. So there was some video, whether it recorded on anything, we don't know.
Go ahead.
Suspect vehicle had a counterfeit Ohio temporary tag on it, which, you know, should lead us to believe that this was a planned attempt at something. The deceased male had multiple forms of identification on his person. We are still processing the vehicles for evidence and inventory, so we haven't got everything out of the vehicles yet, so we're still working on that. About 5 years ago, the resident that lives there notified us that he had received information that the ex-wife was trying to hire somebody to murder him. And we, you know, obviously this was out of state, The out-of-state agency had to take care of that. We would perform periodic checks at this house back then, and, you know, nothing happened till now, but that was part of the history at this residence. And a couple other things, we were able to leave the scene last night at around 9:30, and but to reiterate once again from yesterday, this is an isolated incident with these people involved. I don't think the residents of Greene County, specifically the people in Miami Township and the village of Yellow Springs, have anything to worry about as far as being in danger from this group. And with that, there's three of us up here that will answer questions.
Sure, if I may, before our other guest speaks, some of the residents were really concerned about really how safe it is in their neighborhood, and I don't know if you had a chance to respond to them directly or not, but if not, can you speak on the fact that this area is typically quiet? And I don't know how the crime rate is in that particular area of town. But.
You know, it's ironic that we've had other issues just down the street from where we were yesterday and then at another place, but those were isolated incidents specific to a certain group. You know, Xenia is a great place. Yellow Springs is a great place. Miami Township's a great place. I would not be worried about just a random act of crime occurring physically against somebody.
Sheriff, you did not mention the name of the homeowners. Is there a reason for that? Can you release their
Yeah,
identities?
we still want to protect them as much as we can, so we're not releasing the names of the residents.
I imagine it'll be on a police report at some point in time.
You know, we've got a lot of information included in that police report, so we are still working on that.
Do those homeowners live in that house year-round, or are they part-time residents live other places at other times of the year?
I do not have knowledge of that.
How long ago was this divorce of the ex-wife and the homeowner?
That I do not know. I would imagine if you Googled the names that you would come up with a lot of that. It is, I don't have the answer to that.
Sheriff, would it be fair to say that there was no official restraining order from either couple?
I am not aware of a restraining order that had been issued.
If we can talk about this surveillance system, you found a cell phone set up on a stump.
No, we found a camera system with two cameras, one above the other, that was capable to send video to a cloud or to, just like my Ring. I can turn my Ring system on and watch what's at my front door. This did the same thing. These two cameras were broadcasting. We're assuming that the female was sitting in her car watching what's going on before she came to the scene.
And do you know whether that could have been set up to deliver that video signal other places that other people could have been watching?
I would imagine, just like my Ring, that I could give access to watch that. So could it be somewhere else? Absolutely.
Any indication that it was put on social media anywhere?
You know, we still are early in this, so BCI is helping with that aspect. I don't have anybody that's that techno, except maybe some of my young guys. But the fact that they got it, they can do things that I can't do. So, you know, we'll find out what they get and go from there.
Sounds like this is something that might have been planned for a while. They were able to set up those cameras and kind of plan this whole thing out.
You know, that's sure does look like there was prior calculation and design in this, and we'll go from there. Well, you know, the investigation will turn up as much as we can, and then, you know, the doc will make a ruling, probably classify this as a homicide.
Correct.
Which is the technical term, the legal term for a homicide in this case.
It's simply the manner of death. It's not a legal conclusion as to what happened under these set of facts. That's all. It's a technical term.
Sure. So when you gather all your information and stuff, then will you bring it to prosecutors to review whether there will be any potential charges?
We will, and at that time,
So my name's Suzanne Schmidt. I'm First Assistant Prosecutor here in Greene County. What we would do with this case, first of all, it's a very complex set of facts, and it's going to be I expect, a long investigation. BCI, which is attached to the Attorney General's office, will be assisting, or is assisting, and has given great assistance to the Greene County Sheriff's Office. So there are going to be many items of evidence that are being gathered. It's a time-consuming process. What we would do, plan to do in a case like this is have, once the investigation is done, have the matter presented to a Greene County grand jury for review to see if any charges are warranted. That's typically what we do, but it is going to be a long process. Not all your questions can be answered because it's still a developing investigation, and we don't want to compromise certain elements of that.
Sheriff, the homeowner was not injured, not hit by any bullets?
No, him and his wife, his current wife, were both in the car. She was driving. There was no injuries sustained by either one of them.
Can you talk about the 3 weapons that you did recover, what kind of weapons we're talking about?
Well, they were semi-automatics, but don't really want to go into a whole lot of that yet until we get our ballistic reports back. So,
You mentioned what the relationship is between the deceased man and a woman?
the deceased male and the deceased female are married.
Did the Sanders just have the one car?
The Sanders had one car on the scene, yes.
Do they, I asked about the homeowners and how often they're in town, whether they live full-time here. The Sanders, do they live in Greene County, or did they come from outside the county?
They came from outside the county.
Do they live out of state,
They,
anywhere?
they, they do live out of state, yes.
Is that Texas?
At one time they lived in Texas. I believe now they live in North Carolina.
Do you know how long they were here before this conversation took place?
We do not. We have, nothing we found yet has been able to tell us how long they've been in this area.
Sure. Have you seen any communication between any of those 4 people before this happened? Any, social media, phone, text, email, anything?
We're still working on that.
Sheriff, you may have gone through this yesterday, but I kind of want to rehash it. Can you walk us through what you understand happened at this point? Did they just drive up and then the man start shooting at the vehicle and then they return fire? Were the conversations had before the fire? What happened?
Don't know when the first shot was fired. We've been told from the resident that as they pulled into the driveway, the male came up to the car and displayed a gun, and the passenger male in the vehicle came out and defended himself, apparently, fired shots, and shots do appear to have been exchanged between them two. The male went down the street a little bit and across the street and went to the ground. The female pulled up in a car at that time, and she got out of the car and made comments and went towards the female driver in the car, and according to the other resident, the male resident, she was threatening to kill the guy's wife, and he fired upon that person.
Sheriff, would it be safe to say that there may be other people involved in this as well, or is it too early yet to determine that?
I think that's pretty early right now.
What would your request for them to be if they're in the area as well? If they would have to have known about this taking place, or maybe not going as far as it did, who should they contact if they happen to know anything about this?
We have you can call the Greene County Sheriff's Office, and we'd be more than happy to talk to anybody that's got any other information on this.
In reference to the residents, Sheriff, who live in the area, were they able to give the Sheriff's Office any help without identifying the residents in the area? First, we talked to a couple of residents in the area who said they heard him shouting, screaming back and forth at each other.
Yeah, I specifically talked to one of them that heard shouting and then gunshots. But, as far as eyewitness, we had a Greene County Career Center student drive by after the fact and saw some things. There's another resident of Greene County that drove by, said she heard some gunshots while she was going by.
Sheriff, if you can elaborate for me, can you talk about the fact that anybody who have happened to have been in that area, would it be important for them also to contact their office, even if they think they heard something?
Right. We would accept all kinds of information. If somebody has something that maybe we don't have. You know, they may not realize it's important, but we'll take all information and put it together and present it to the prosecutor's office.
And the same even if they live out of state, if they happen to know these individuals.
You know, we're going to try to talk to as many people as we can, and if, you know, if there's somebody that from out of state that absolutely knows why this happened, then I would really appreciate a phone call.
Sheriff, my kind of two-part question for Cheryl, is her middle name Wheeler? And then the second question, are you familiar with any of her history? Is she a celebrity spokesperson, for instance?
I do know that one of her previous names was Wheeler, and she is, I have found a website where she was a very prominent stunt person for the movies and has stunt doubled for several famous movie stars.
How does she spell her name? Lucy?
I believe it's Cheryl.
Okay.
So, Sheriff, you talked about, you had the homeowner had reported a possible threat from 5 years ago. So obviously, I think that means that they've been divorced at least 5 years, to your knowledge?
I would believe that that's the case.
So as you look at this now, and you're still only, I know, a little over 24 hours later, but what is the motive behind this confrontation?
You know, we can only surmise. If I stand up here and said this, or this, it's just a guess. You know, you guys have been online and seen the value of the house. Is it money? You know, money can be the root of all evil. So, but I can't say it's money. I'm not sure exactly why this happened, or that's what the investigation's for.
Do you have any idea how long the Sanders were in the area, or where they might have been staying while they were here?
No, we haven't been able to trace backwards from where they've been, and we're trying to do that. So how long they've been in this area, I have no idea.
The address of the house where the shooting took place, it is 3443 Grinnell Road.
The address is 3443 Grinnell Road.
Robert Sanders have any criminal past that you guys know of?
He has.
What is?
I don't have that with me, so.
When can we expect the report, do you think? I know
But any kind of report we're going to release is early is going to be, probably have most of the information you guys have already got. So as far as a step-by-step part of the investigation, we won't release active investigation notes.
I know the initial report.
The initial report, I don't know, tomorrow maybe, or should be able to have it ready tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
How can we reach your tip line?
I'm sorry?
What's the number for your tip line?
Dispatch would be, what's the detective section tip line?
562-4810.
You need to say that.
The tip line is, now we have to use the area code, 937-562-4810.
Are you digging into correspondence paperwork? You said that you found different IDs on Mr. Reed, hoping that that will explain some of what this confrontation was about.
We are going to do whatever we can to determine why this happened, why it happened on this date, and everything we can about this before we take it to the prosecutor's office. And we anticipate, once again, BCI being a huge help for us. They've helped us several times over the years on major profile, high-profile cases. And, you know, we're digging into it. They're helping us. They're right there. Many hours are going to be spent on this.
And I just want to make sure that the paperwork you found on Mr. Reed, different identities?
Different forms of identification.
Would that make you think that there was a thought to leave the country after this?
I don't think leave the country, maybe go to another spot of the country. You just never know.
And then back to the video system one more time. You found what appeared to be a receiver, or at least the Cheryl was watching some of what was going on. So do you have a record? Do you have a videotape record of some of what happened, or all of what happened?
We do not have the videotape. We're still trying to, and that BCI once again has this. They've got that phone, and if we need to get a subpoena, to subpoena the company where the video was going through, we will do that. Now, there was another camera on the fence that the homeowner had, but it was not turned on.
I know you mentioned that the homeowner has a CCW. Do you know if the guns possessed by the dead were legally obtained by them, or?
You know, we're working with ATF to determine that.
Sheriff, any information about the car? I understand you said there were fictitious plates on the vehicle or stolen plates on the car. Anything unusual about the car, be it from Dayton?
No, the car was theirs. It just had a counterfeit Ohio temporary tag on it, on the back.
Can you describe it for us when you say counterfeit? I mean, cardboard paper with.
You know what a Ohio temporary tag looks like? They made one, changed the dates at the bottom, and
That would have took a little bit of time. Also, anything unusual about the car? Suitcases in it, or?
we are inventorying the car as we speak. So
So the camera on the fence that wasn't turned on was the only security that the home had?
we don't know that yet. So I've asked several questions about that myself.
And when you say homeowner, do you mean they own the house, like for sure, or they rent the house? Or do you know that?
If I can change that to home occupant, resident.
Okay.
I think the house is listed in the LLC, but I haven't checked into the LLC.
Gotcha.
Have you talked with any family members, friends of the people that were shot and the homeowners that can shed any light on what this confrontation may have been about?
The coroner's office has spent time talking with family members of the deceased. So
Did any of those conversations lead any fruitful leads as to what this confrontation was about?
I think they were spending more time talking about, and we've not got to that point where we've interviewed them at all.
Did they have any children?
The living male and the deceased female have 2 daughters.
How long
Adult
was
daughters?
They are in college, as far as I know.
the CCW permit holder, when did he acquire that?
I don't have the dates, sorry.
Sheriff, is there anything we're missing?
But there's still a bunch of stuff that we're missing, and you know, I'd like to get all those answers and present it to the grand jury as soon as possible, but we're going to be thorough. This is, you know, this is not something we see a whole lot of here in Greene County, and really, I don't know, too many times across the valley that we've seen this. So it's, it will take several weeks to bring this to a conclusion.
From the prosecutor's standpoint, if I may, for Ms. Suzanne, at what point were the other gun player be cleared of any charges? Sure, it's going to take some time, but with the understanding he does have a legal CCW, and from that point, what part where your department cleared him of any charges?
We have to wait for the investigation to be complete. There are, this is a case where we'd have to do and have done search warrants to obtain information from phones, from electronic equipment, multiple items that would have to be, first you have to get the search warrant, then you have to download. There is a lot of technical expertise that BCI lends to this. This is going to take probably more, Sheriff said maybe 3 weeks. I would anticipate it may take longer than that. And there are a lot of people that have to be interviewed. So we're simply at the inception of the case, and we want to be thorough because when a case is presented to the grand jury, we have all the facts to give the grand jury to consider, and then a decision is made. So we don't want to rush it. We want to make sure that we have all the facts that are necessary to make a decision.
And for some of our viewers who may not be familiar with the term CCW, can you elaborate on what that means, what it stands for?
Carrying concealed weapon is a license that individuals may obtain with proper education and background check in the state of Ohio and other states.
And under the state's definition of a person being legally able to carry that weapon with the CCW, the definition of when and when not to use it under the state's definition?
Well, it's all factual, but if you're in your own home, you can defend yourself, certainly, and they were in the vehicle. So it's castle doctrine is what it's called legally. But this is, again, there are a number of facts here that have to be considered, but the investigation must be completed thoroughly, and that's what BCI and the Sheriff's Office is working on. The Coroner's Office has a primary role on, cause of death and the autopsies. I think maybe the coroner, Dr. Sherrod, has referenced this before, but the autopsies are being completed, or maybe they have been completed in Montgomery County, and you have to wait for there's always a toxicology report associated with that, and it usually takes 6 weeks because they have to be thorough to the Montgomery County Coroner's Office.
And to be fair to you, ma'am, I wasn't really talking about this specific case, but you answered the question correctly, in my opinion. Not a lawyer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I only have one other question for you, ma'am. To make sure everybody's clear on the definition of CCW and the right to carry it, those definitions have to be followed legally, correct? I mean,
Yes, there's a statute, and you of course have to go through a course, a certified course, and then there'll be a background when you go to a sheriff's office to obtain the license, the carrying concealed weapon license, and then when you're carrying it, for instance, in a vehicle, if someone was going off track here, but if someone was stopped for a violation, you have to tell the police officer that you have a permit, that you're carrying a gun, assuming you're carrying a gun. So there are restrictions, but
and the same holds true for when and when not you fear for your life.
well, that's a self-defense question, and the castle doctrine covers you in your home. Ohio has expanded that to the vehicle. So again, these are all factual questions that have to be answered as part of the investigation. So we'll make sure that we have all the facts before we go to the grand jury.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, we will, I can't tell you the next time we'll do releases, but if something noteworthy comes up, we will let you know.